Hello, fellow leggers!
You're only here at the National Theatre with us, where we are seeing a Hollywood A-lister in a sold-out, brand-new play, which is called...
When we have sufficiently tortured each other.
Nice and catchy short
Let's
title,
hope we're not going to be
isn't it?
torturing each other with this piece.
I know, I hope it's torturing them and not the audience. But after a plethora of one-star reviews, can't wait to find out what we think and whether it's break a leg or leg it.
Yes, this is a bit of a dodgy one. Like, A-lister, fantastic. We'll talk about her in a second. But the reviews for this have not been good at all.
And that's to say the least. I would call them scathing, and in some cases going so far as to say that it's an absolute waste of a talented actress's
So what are we
ability.
doing here? Why are we coming to see it?
Because we put ourselves through these things, so you don't have to, potentially. Or who knows, maybe we'll get something from it that no one else has understood, because theatre is so subjective, and the only person's opinion that matters is your own.
Absolutely, and so it's got Cate Blanchett in.
Yes, Cate Blanchett, you will all recognise her from films such as The Aviator. She's done
Lord of the Rings,
so she's Galadriel throughout that trilogy, and the Hobbit films. She's in those as well. She did Ocean's 8 recently, and she's also in Bandits with Bruce Willis, which I think is a great film, and not to forget the absolutely standout performance she gave in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Let's nuke the fridge, everyone.
I think enough said about that particular film.
But you know her, right?
And
I mean, to get attracted to
big.
come to London
She's
and
huge.
do a play is absolutely sensational. Now, this play is written by Martin Crimp. We've only reviewed one of the Martin Crimp piece, and I think I've ever seen one of the Martin Crimp piece, and that was The Treatment, which is at the Almeida, that we gave 1 star to.
Which you can catch
Sensing a
just up
trend
there.
here, are you? 1 star for Martin Crimp plays.
In terms of his style, from what I've read, he prefers to look at kind of action on stage rather than narrative. Although from what we saw, there wasn't much action either.
No,
so I guess the interplay of who knows?
Well, this play...
But that's his style.
This play is 12 variations on Samuel Richardson's Pamela. Now, Pamela apparently was a novel published anonymously in 1740, which was full of sex and scandal and absolutely set the literary world on alight at that time.
Okay.
With its themes of human sexuality, sort of polygamy, dominatrixism. Is that a word? It is now. And I think they're interesting themes, maybe.
Okay, it sounds saucy, sounds good, sounds meaty.
Also in the cast is Stephen Dillane. He was in the Bow Stratagem here at the National. He's done lots of things. Game of Thrones, of course.
Hasn't anyone who's anyone has done Game of Thrones?
I think so, but also film credits. So I'm sure you'll know him from he's got a Tony, a BAFTA, an International Emmy, and a Critics Circle Award for Best Actor.
Well, how about that?
How about that?
The cast is good then.
The cast is good.
He got good credits.
Well, there's no interval for this one, so we won't be getting a breakdown. It's 2 hours, no escape. I mean, 2 hours straight through. So we'll catch up with you and let you know whether we agree with those critics or whether we actually understood this play. Who knows? So, are we pained? Are we suitably sort of beaten and battered and bruised, like many of the critics seem to be after seeing this piece? Do you know what? We'll open with you. What did you think of When We Have Sufficiently... Is that what it is? Yes, when we have sufficiently tortured each other.
It's 2 hours long.
It is long. And can I just say, it's also snowing in central London at the moment.
So it's freezing.
It's freezing cold.
However,
here, yes.
I enjoyed it. I'm gonna swim against the tide and I'll be open. I was expecting something dire, bad, but actually I thoroughly enjoyed it. The performances were really bloody strong, which I think could make or break this piece, really. didn't entirely know what was going on, but it was good. In a nutshell, I'll break it down in a bit more detail shortly. How about you?
I had a great time. I thought it was a fantastically...
So we're not going to be fighting over this
No,
one?
a really interesting piece of theatre that you're absolutely right is very abstract. Such is Martin Crimp, I believe. I mean, after seeing Treatment and this, I think he is abstract. But the strength of the performances absolutely carries the text, really, and it explored things I've never seen in theatre before. And you know, we see so much theatre, it's nice to see something a little bit different and just quite unique, and as a result fairly outstanding. I would say it stood out for me as something interesting.
Okay, so let's break it down into the piece then itself. I wasn't quite sure entirely what was going on, but it's almost like really well performed in that sense. It's almost as if they're making it up as they're going along. They've got a loose structure. We don't know fully if this is they're just they're really rich, and so they've kind of paid these people to come into their house so they can play out their fantasy role play to some extent. I think is to one extent what it could be, but then at other times it's as if they are just telling a story and this is a concept within it. You're never quite sure.
Yeah, and I think it is the fact that those abstract sort of kind of interpolation and between those characters, and also the what's the word I'm looking for? The sort of the ability for you to interpret it in a different way opens up a huge amount of conversation.
Yeah, sometimes if it doesn't give you exactly what it is, it leaves it for us to make up our own mind, which sometimes is what art is about. Sometimes you see an abstract piece and
like a painting,
beauty is in the eye of the beholder. As to what your experience is what you take from it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So it's kind of wide open-ish.
Well, wide open-ish in the constraints of
how wide open
of husband and wife having a sub-dom relationship, which is what they have. Themes of who is the man in this relationship and who is the woman, and how are those parts and those roles played in a relationship. I mean, it's interesting in a heterosexual environment, I think. This couldn't work had it have been a homosexual relationship, but
no, because
it has to be what it is.
The male and female roles are so well established in society that that's what it comments on that role shift, and they role shift amongst parts as well. Who is the female, who is the male, who wears the trousers, who is the dominant one? So they say so often, just be a man. And what is it about?
What is it? What makes a man?
And that role shift of then the woman taking on the man's role and the man taking on the woman's role and vice versa. It's just a really nice interplay. And there are times when you're not quite sure, but then you catch on and it moves at a really nice pace. There's 6 people in it.
Yeah, no, let's talk about creatives. I want to talk about a director here, because...
Oh, we didn't talk about...
Because we didn't mention Katie Mitchell at the beginning. Now, we've seen one other Katie Mitchell piece, which was here at the Dorfman, and it was just before we became the Leggers.
That was a bit of a controversy as well.
Yeah, it was Cleansed, if any of you know it, the Sarah Kane piece, which touches on torture and sexual violence, and I think that's something that Katie Mitchell seems to get. And that was another piece that we quite enjoyed, even though it was polarising in the critics and the audiences. I just think she's the right person for this sort of job, and
she gets it.
And she absolutely gets it. And I thought she managed to drag out, because the text is so abstract, she managed to drag out the action, and I was thoroughly engaged throughout. Great use of underscoring
throughout, accentuating certain moments.
Yes,
really nice.
Set was really believable, and the performances that the director has pulled out of these pieces were never hammy. It was never overstrung, and I think you could easily venture into the world of this being farcical. And there were funny moments, but they were natural. They were sort of natural humour.
They came out of it.
Yeah, they came out of it. It was never really dragged out, and I think that's a great director.
So well done, Katie Mitchell, in that regard. As we're on creatives as well, also liked the fight direction as well. There's some really nice fight direction in there. Suddenly it switches up pace altogether and they're beating the hell out of each other.
That'll be Rachel Bowen Williams and Ruth Cooper Brown for RC Annie Limited, the fight directors. I've got to say, I've never had so many hyphens in a sentence before.
So, nice there. Can we talk about cast now?
Let's talk about cast.
Okay,
I
so
suppose we should.
5, 6 of them in there?
Yeah.
But saying that is pretty much just a 2-person show.
Yeah, it is all
Ultimately.
about Cate Blanchett as a woman
Yeah.
and Stephen Dillane as man.
Who should we start with?
Let's start with Stephen.
Okay, I absolutely loved him. I remember him now from Game of Thrones, where he played Stannis. He played a role completely different to what he was in here. He was... In this, is meant to be someone that's quite boring, uses too many words. I needed to believe that he was making stuff up as he was going, being the dominant role, but also, you know, touching on those sensitivities. I thought he played it brilliantly. He had such lovely tone as well to his voice. It's just what I thought of him. How about you?
I feel upset that I've never seen him in anything else. I thought he was captivating.
Good,
and you know what? I go so far to say it's better than Mark Rylance in anything I've ever seen Mark Rylance in. That's what I would say.
Well, there we go. And you haven't
Yeah.
even seen Game of Thrones.
No, I've never seen it, but I just thought he
was really good.
He was
So
absolutely the little nuances and the switching and the ease in which he managed to grasp the vulnerability of a woman and then the strength of a man. I was just overwhelmed by his ability. I thought he was fantastic.
Okay, so let's go on to woman. Are
Yeah.
they called man, woman?
Yes, just man and woman.
Man and woman. Okay, so let's go on to woman.
Yes, Cate Blanchett in the role of woman. I mean, she needs a woman that needs no introduction, is she, Cate Blanchett? You know, Oscar nominee. I don't know if she ever won one. Let us know below. I'd love to hear from you. But I've always adored her. And what I've really adored and admired about Cate Blanchett is her chameleonic ability. The fact that she's so different between every role I've seen her in that at times I've had to question if it's her or not. And this is just another one of her, an example of when she becomes, and she absolutely does become, when she plays a part. And I feel honoured to have seen her in the flesh.
I thought she was fantastic.
Screen acting's a very different beast, isn't it?
It is really different, but boy, is she good! Is she good? And like you say, chameleonic. She was playing the man and the woman, and it was nice to see her in a native accent as well.
Yeah, she's Australian, for those of you who don't know, because, I mean, she was German in Indiana Jones, wasn't she?
And I remember The Aviator now. She played someone who's a real-life character, and she did that so well. Anyway, she was just bloody good, and the two of them, man, woman, together, are captivating and worth the admission fee. I mean, they drive this piece.
And you may never ever get the chance to see a Hollywood A-list actress like this on a West End stage. I believe she turned down All About Eve for this. That's the rumour that Gillian Anderson is now doing it in the West End because maybe she just wanted to challenge herself. I mean, why do a role that's been done before? You know, All About Eve is a famous movie. She's probably read this and thought, I can put my own spin on this. This will be my part, and she makes it her own part.
And there are some meaty monologues in this. I tell you, some meaty text.
It's very sexualised. It's very, very violent.
But just enough sexualised. I didn't feel as if it was over the top. With Clems, which we saw before, you know, it was almost nothing was left
Violence
to the
for
imagination.
violence's sake as
and
well.
You saw everything, whereas a lot of this was done in a not in a nice way, but in a more
the nice violence.
not even
a lovely
discreet
beating.
way, but more. Do you know what I mean? Just more sensitive, just right.
I really want to call out, I'm going to just mention,
Go on,
and I wish I hadn't have said it now because I can't pronounce these names, Babiyeri Bukilwa as Girl 2. I just want to mention Jessica Gunning as Mrs. Jukes. We get a number from her. Who knew that was coming up? But we get a song from her. Emma Hindle as Girl 1. And Craig Miller as Ross, who has... You know what? I think it's a gift of a role in so much that it's really testing an actor's ability because he doesn't get to say anything almost.
That's a lot for a lot of the cast in this, apart from man and woman.
Yeah.
They are just observers.
But I found particularly with Craig Miller as Ross because you think there are moments where he's going to speak and he actually doesn't speak. But he gave us a masterclass in not acting, which I really liked.
And that's what's
not
really
acting,
nice.
acting.
Yeah, as if there was a lot in the piece of uncertainty. I felt as if the whole company didn't know what was coming
next.
up.
Yeah.
It was next, which it was just the idea of it. But I actually felt that. even though I knew that was what was
You
being
knew you
done.
were watching a play, right?
Yeah.
They weren't just. It wasn't a piece of
But
just.
then at times I thought, do they know what's happening? Are they just improvising this whole thing?
Yeah, it wasn't an improv session. It's got a script.
What? So that was really good.
Absolutely.
I guess you're probably wondering how many stars?
Well, for when we have sufficiently tortured each other, we are going to give
4 stars for this piece.
I really enjoyed it. I was totally engaged, thoroughly captivated and interested as to what was going on. I think the interpretation of it is, it's just an open story, and it's you can absolutely get something from this on many different levels. I would see it again, and I think if I saw it again, I might have a different experience.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing it again. Definitely this company. I don't think it's for everyone.
No.
If you're used to coming into London's West End and seeing Les Mis, some Wicked,
That's not even light and fluffy. I was going to say something light and fluffy. But
nice stuff that this possibly
Commercial
isn't
stuff.
commercial. This
It's
isn't
not
commercial.
commercial.
I think we're obviously at the theatre a lot, and sometimes it is nice just to see something refreshing and driven and some bloody good committed performers. So if that's you, give it a try.
Well, if you can, I mean, famously the tickets were available by ballot for this one, so you had to enter a lottery just to have the chance to
The
purchase
ability to be
tickets.
in.
Day seats are available if you're willing to get down here at the National Theatre. Queue up before their box office opens at 10:30, I believe. You can get a day seat. You could also get a potential return for this. So, I mean, check it out. I've seen them crop up online from time to time. It's not too late. You may get the chance to be tortured yourself.
But hey, that's just what I think.
That's just what I think. What do you think? Have you seen it? Are you hoping to see it? Are you disappointed you've missed out? Comment below. We'd love to hear from you. We're the Breaker Leggers.
And we'll catch you again soon.
I'm off to make a sandwich. Bye!